Egypt is a land of myth, legend, and wonder. Its history stretches so far back that we see Cleopatra as ancient. Yet to Cleopatra, the pyramids were already so old that she had experts study them. Ancient Egypt was unlike any other place on this holy earth, and there's still so much we don't fully understand about it. Some of its deepest mysteries are here in this video. Let's start off with number 15. The Temple of Ptolemy. Egypt is practically one massive archaeological site, but sometimes history isn't uncovered by archaeologists, it's cracked open by accident. In 2019, construction workers in Tarna Sohag halted their drilling work for a sewage line when they struck stone blocks. What they had breached was the long-lost Temple of Ptolemy IV, hidden for over 2,200 years. Once specialists were called in, the discovery was confirmed. Ptolemy IV doesn't have the best reputation in Egyptian history. He was more obsessed with art and indulgence than with actual governance. That might explain why his temple sat buried and forgotten, built far from major cities on the Nile's western bank. Still, the man had grand ambitions. He commissioned the largest human-powered sailing vessel of its time, the Tessera Contares, manned by over 4,000 rowers. Though not the most effective ruler, he left behind a temple that has now resurfaced, thanks not to scholars but to a busted sewage pipe and the sharp instincts of a startled construction crew. Number 14. The Headless Pharaoh of Hazor. We've identified plenty of Egyptian pharaohs, but in reality, not all of them. No one knows whose decapitated stone head is pictured here. The sculpture is roughly 4,300 years old and was unearthed in Hazor, an ancient city in what is now northern Israel. Experts believe it was created around the same era as the Egyptian pyramids and was likely destroyed during the fiery siege of Hazor by Joshua's forces roughly 3,300 years ago. The sculpture's curled wig and uraeus, the stylized cobra on the forehead, unmistakably mark it as royal. It's an emblem reserved only for pharaohs. While it's clear this fragment once belonged to a complete statue, the body has never been recovered. Other Egyptian relics have surfaced in Hazor's ruins, pointing to strong cultural or political ties between Egypt and Hazor, though Hazor itself wasn't considered Egyptian land. The relationship between the two regions remains unclear, just like the identity of the pharaoh, whose gaze was lost to fire, stone, and time. It's ancient Egypt. Anything is possible. Number 13. The Palermo Stone. The Palermo Stone is considered one of the earliest known historical records in existence. It's named after Palermo, Sicily, where it surfaced in 1877, though its origins are entirely Egyptian. The slab details events from Egypt's first 5 dynasties, starting around 2925 BCE and continuing through to 2325 BCE. That timeline suggests the stone was likely created near the latter date, meaning some entries recall events 600 years earlier. Whether those earlier details are accurate or exaggerated remains uncertain. This stone is just a fragment. Researchers estimate the original would have been about 6 feet long and likely displayed in a temple. Among its most notable entries is the military campaign of Pharaoh Sneferu, who allegedly returned from Nubia with 7,000 captives and 2,000 head of cattle, but that could just as easily be royal propaganda. No one knows how the stone ended up in Sicily, but it's now a critical key to understanding early dynastic Egypt, offering rare insights into kings, wars, and early temple rituals. Number 12. The Serapeum of Saqqara. Few mysteries in Egypt rival the Serapeum of Saqqara. Hidden beneath the desert near the Great Pyramid, this underground chamber contains 24 huge sarcophagi, each carved from solid granite and weighing over 100 tons. Believed to date back 3,300 years to the reign of Ramses II, these colossal boxes were buried deep underground. Some were found open, holding the remains of sacred Apis bulls. While the bulls were revered in Egyptian religion, the scale and precision of these sarcophagi raise more questions than answers. One controversial theory proposes they were used in a fermentation process that generated light, causing the interiors of the tunnels to glow. The idea is far-fetched and dismissed by most experts, yet mainstream archaeologists haven't offered many alternatives. Theories range from religious use to advanced engineering, but no conclusion sticks. The boxes remain a feat of craftsmanship and logistics that seems almost out of step with the tools of the time. All right, now let's move to number 11, the Sabu disc. The Sabu disc, sometimes called the schist disc, has puzzled experts since it was dug up in 1936 in North Saqqara. Dated to Egypt's first dynasty, this 5,000-year-old artifact is shaped like a tri-lobed wheel and carved from metaschist, a stone so fragile it would have cracked under even minor pressure. Measuring 2 feet across but only an inch thick, it's hard to believe it survived intact, let alone that someone managed to shape it so precisely. Some suggest it might have been a ceremonial oil lamp, while others believe it was part of a mash rake used in beer production. Theories have ranged from the mundane to the bizarre. One fringe idea even claims it's a component from an alien craft. Regardless, it's unique. No other object from ancient Egypt shares its design. You can see it for yourself at the Cairo Museum, where it remains as much an enigma today as it was nearly a century ago. Whatever its purpose, its craftsmanship is undeniable. Number 10. Khorda rock art. Along the cliffs of the Upper Nile in Egypt's Khorda region, ancient images lay hidden for thousands of years until archaeologists spotted them in 2005, etched into sandstone walls. The figures depict animals, birds, and abstract human forms. But what stunned researchers wasn't just the art, it was the age. Using optically stimulated luminescence, scientists dated the sediment covering the carvings and determined the engravings were at least 15,000 years old, possibly older. Some estimates push it closer to 19,000 years. That makes it the oldest known rock art in North Africa, predating Egyptian dynasties by millennia. The images had already been partially worn by the time before being covered by silt and debris, which helped preserve them. Most sites would have eroded completely, but Khorda's debris blanket kept the sediment in place. It's a rare preservation fluke that left us with a glimpse of how ancient communities recorded their world before history was even written. Long before the pyramids, these cliffs were already telling stories. Number 9. Tutankhamun Set's lost daughters. We often think of Tutankhamun as the boy king due to his young age, but he was old enough to father children. In fact, we found 2. Tragically, both were stillborn daughters and placed beside him in his tomb. Howard Carter uncovered their tiny coffins in 1922. The inscriptions didn't include their names, just the word Osiris, meaning the departed. Today, they're clinically labeled as mummies 317A and 317B. Their mother was likely Enki Senamen, Tutankhamun's wife, who might be the same individual now identified as Mummy KV21A. Mummy 317A was born at just 5 to 6 months of pregnancy. 317B came close to full term. The girl's features were unusual, and although medical conditions like spina bifida and Sprengel's deformity have been floated as explanations, nothing has been proven. Even after modern testing, their cause of death remains a mystery. For all the names we know from ancient Egypt, these 2 royal daughters remain anonymous, forever a part of history, but without identity. Number 8. The sealed sarcophagus of Alexandria. Despite Egypt's countless excavations, there are still secrets hiding under the streets and buildings. In July 2018, a construction crew working in Alexandria's City Ghaber district stumbled upon something ancient buried 16 feet below, an enormous black granite sarcophagus, estimated to be around 2,300 years old. It dates back to the Ptolemaic period. A heavily eroded alabaster bust was found near the coffin, but the figure it represents remains unclear. Time and erosion have erased the identity of whoever was sealed inside. What makes this find especially intriguing is its scale. Only high-ranking elites or rulers would have been interred in such heavy, costly stone. The lid alone weighs roughly 15 tons. Some speculated it might hold Alexander the Great, though most scholars are skeptical. Still, it's rare to find a sarcophagus of this size completely untouched. Excavation is cautious and ongoing. It may be years before we know who's buried inside. Until then, the mystery sits silently beneath the city, waiting for its name to return. Number 7. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs found in Sudan. In March 2023, Polish archaeologists working in Old Dongola, northern Sudan, made a find that redefined the timeline of the site. Old Dongola, once the capital of the Nubian kingdom of Makuria, was known to have thrived between the 5th and 11th centuries CE. But buried beneath later ruins, researchers discovered over 100 sandstone blocks bearing Egyptian hieroglyphs dating back to the 25th dynasty, also called the Nubian dynasty. These inscriptions suggest a much earlier occupation, possibly from the first half of the first millennium BCE. That pushes Old Dongola's known history back by more than 1,000 years. The blocks may have been part of a temple, now lost, dedicated to Egyptian or Nubian gods. This is the earliest known evidence of organized human activity at the site. The discovery doesn't just shift timelines, it highlights Egypt's deep cultural reach far beyond its borders. Excavations continue, and with each block uncovered, the story of Old Dongola grows older and more connected to Egypt than anyone expected. Number 6. The missing tomb of Thutmose. Even with centuries of archaeological work, some Egyptian rulers remain hidden beneath the earth. Thutmose II, who became pharaoh at just 13, is one of them. His reign was brief, lasting only 3 years, and much of his legacy was overshadowed by his wife Queen Hatshepsut, who eventually claimed the throne. But in recent years, a new discovery may have brought experts closer to finding his long-lost tomb. In the Theban necropolis of Deir el-Bahari, archaeologists unearthed a 3,500-year-old stone box containing the remains of a sacrificed goose and a wooden chest inscribed with Thutmose II's name. It's not the goose that raised eyebrows, it's the inscription. Items like this often serve as markers placed near tomb entrances, especially when associated with royal names. Researchers now believe his burial site might be located nearby, still untouched. If it's eventually uncovered, it could hold a wealth of artifacts and perhaps even rewrite part of Egypt's royal timeline. For now, the desert keeps its secret tightly sealed. Number 5. Tutankhamun's glass brooch. Among the many artifacts recovered from Tutankhamun's tomb, one of the most overlooked is a scarab-shaped brooch, small in size but massive in mystery. Its centerpiece is a yellow-brown silica glass, not man-made but formed by a cosmic collision. Roughly 28 million years ago, a comet exploded above the Sahara, heating the sand to over 2,000 degrees Celsius. The impact created patches of natural glass now scattered across 6,000 square miles of desert. Ancient Egyptians somehow found and prized this glass, polishing it and shaping it into jewelry fit for a pharaoh. Tutankhamun's brooch proves they not only valued rare materials, but might have sensed their celestial origin. While it's unlikely they understood comet physics, they clearly knew this stone was special. Egyptian astronomers were advanced for their time, and this brooch suggests they connected earthly materials to cosmic events. For a king buried in gold, this comet-born gem still manages to steal the spotlight, quietly resting on a golden scarab that outlived empires. Number 4. Temple discovery at Buto. In 2022, archaeologists from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities announced a new chapter in Buto's long history. Working in the Kafr el-Sheikh Governorate, they found a columned hall, part of a once sprawling temple complex. Buto, likely founded during the New Kingdom but thriving in the Side period, spans 11 acres and is enclosed by a massive mud brick wall. The recently revealed hypostyle hall sits at the southwestern edge. 3 partially intact papyrus-shaped columns hint at the structure's original grandeur. Alongside the hall, the team found a limestone slab etched with a bird-headed deity wearing a white crown, possibly representing the goddess Nekhbet or Mut. Nearby, a limestone crypt was found, likely used to house votive statues. While these features align with known temple designs, the layout of Buto still holds surprises. Each discovery brings researchers closer to understanding how this temple functioned and why it was constructed so far from more famous religious centers. Excavations are ongoing, and more layers are still waiting below. Number 3. Bayt el Hagar. The ruins at Beit el-Hagar, in Egypt's Dakalia Governorate, mark one of the most significant but overlooked temples dedicated to the goddess Isis. Known in ancient texts since the New Kingdom, the site's temple Ejon was built from solid granite during the reign of Nectanebo II and completed under Ptolemy III. That alone makes it rare. Most temples were constructed from limestone or sandstone, not granite, which is both more durable and harder to work with. Beit el-Hagar was considered the lower Egyptian counterpart to Philae in Upper Egypt, both serving as primary cult centers for Isis. Although the temple now lies in ruins, its scale and choice of materials suggest it was once a place of considerable importance. Oddly, it seems to have been deliberately destroyed. Given the effort it would take to dismantle solid granite walls, the act was likely political or religious in nature. Today, scattered fragments remain along the Damietta branch of the Nile, offering a glimpse into a temple that once rivaled Philae's prominence. Number 2. The double statue of Horemheb and Amenia. Housed in the British Museum, the double statue of Horemheb and his wife Amenia is one of ancient Egypt's more personal artistic pieces. Yet for many years, no one even knew who the figures were. The statue entered the museum in 1839, acquired from the Anastasi collection, with no clear origin point, though Saqqara was suspected. It wasn't until 2009 that the mystery was solved. Archaeologists uncovered a matching fragment in Horemheb and Amenia's burial chamber, a set of clasped hands. The broken piece fit perfectly into the statue, confirming its subjects. Crafted in the 18th dynasty, the sculpture shows the couple seated on a lion-legged throne, both dressed in formal attire and wigs. What makes it stand out is Amenia's pose, holding both her husband's hands, a rare depiction of affection and status. Most double statues show the wife resting one hand on the husband. This one doesn't play by that script. It's a subtle but bold visual cue about their relationship and her importance in his life. Number 1. Thutmose III sits, Botanical Garden. Within the temple of Amun-Re at Karnak lies a rare and overlooked marvel, the Botanical Garden of Thutmose III. Created around 3,400 years ago, this walled space was no mere garden but a sacred chamber built to display Egypt's imperial reach through nature itself. It consisted of 2 antechambers and a sanctuary, accessible via a calcite door high above ground, reached by a staircase. Inside, the sanctuary contained 8 alcoves that held divine statues, including one of Thutmose III himself. The walls, however, steal the show. They're carved with remarkably detailed depictions of animals and plants gathered during his military campaigns, many never before seen in Egypt. Sphinx sculptures flanked the outer entrance, and ritual scenes were carved throughout the complex. The wide antechamber required 4 pillars to support its ceiling, giving it an unusual architectural structure. Unlike traditional temples built for worship, this was designed to preserve and display natural specimens, a tribute to Egypt's expansion and the biodiversity its pharaoh brought back with him. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.